The Nick Scott Effect. The Nick Scott Effect. Everywhere podcasts are found.
Just a reader.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I know you have a lot going on. You have HD Media. You have the newspaper. Obviously, being a delegate in the West Virginia House of Delegates, a lot of cool stuff. And I've always been a fan of yours and what you do for the state and for the community. And the big reason I wanted to reach out to you was, so by all intents and purposes, I'm what you call a moron. And so the governor and a lot of you, and what I mean by a lot of you, a lot of folks in our Congress were going around the state, and we were talking a lot about the tax cut, the income tax cut.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of back and forth. I remember at the beginning it was do away with it completely, and then it went, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, it went to 50% and then now 25%. So if you're like me, the average Joe Schmo voter, a lot of that was confusing. So I had the idea, if this was confusing to me, I'd go straight to the horse's mouth, invite you on, and maybe you can enlighten me a little bit better, maybe some of my listeners in the West Virginia area a little bit better. So what exactly will someone like me, a taxpayer, see with this new tax bill?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it was confusing as can be, Nick. I'll tell you what, it started, the governor had these grandiose ideas. He's like, let's just cut it 50%, and then figure out how to pay for it later, right? Well, the House passed that version. It was 50%, and then over the next couple of years, eventually phase it out. Well, that was going to leave like a huge, like $1 billion hole in the budget, okay? Then he kicked it over to the Senate side, and the Senate said, wait, not so fast. We still want to do that business inventory, property tax, rebate thing. Remember that it was Amendment 2 on the ballot, and it didn't pass, so they wanted to do a version of that. The Democrats, they came out last year, we wanted to do a rebate on your car tax. So the Senate said, hey, let's try to put all this together. So the Senate said, all right, let's do all three. Let's reduce the income tax you're going to get from 50% down to 21.25%. So what's that mean is basically the what you pay on your percentage based on what tax bracket you fall in will be reduced by 21.25%. The goal is still to phase that out over time. We want to phase it out over the next 2 to 3 years, 4 years, but only if the state surplus there's enough money there for the state surplus to be affected by it. So we don't want to just put a hole in the budget. So this new full enchilada will give you a refund back for your car, depending on what your taxes are your car. You apply when you go to pay your taxes. It could be $200, $300, $400 back, whatever the value of your car is and the taxes you pay on it.
Sure.
The inventory tax won't really affect you unless you're like a small business owner or something like that, and you can apply for 100% back on the inventory and equipment tax that you pay if you're a small business owner if you meet the small business thresholds. So what's it mean to income tax? Well, how much is Nick Scott going to get back, and what are you going to get back in your pockets? I think the bottom line is based on how much you earn. For example, if you make the average income, let's say $25,000 to $40,000, and you're used to paying about a $900, current rate at 4.5% tax, that would be $900. That'll be reduced by about $200. Okay, so you have $200 back in your pocket. So instead of paying 4.5%, you reduce that by 21.25%. It'll take it down to 3.54%. Without confusing you, you pay about $700. Sure. So you get about $200 back. Let's say you make between $40,000 and $60,000. And your average taxes, you're in a 6% tax bracket category. On your income, you pay about $1,575. Well, that'll be now reduced to about $1,200. So that's $300 back in your pocket. So obviously, the more you earn, the more money you'll get back. If you're over $60,000 and you fall in that category, you'll pay about $2,500. You'll get about $500 back.
Awesome. So, and you said over the course of 3 years. So, tell me if I'm wrong. In 3 years, does that mean income tax goes away completely, or?
So the goal was to phase it out over 3 years. That was the original governor's intent. Now, not so fast. Based on if we have the budget surplus, because the income tax right now, what's this mean? That's like about this whole package cost the state $750 million a year to do.
Wow.
Okay. And when your normal budget is around, hovering around the 4.5 billion mark, and you take almost $1 billion out of it, you got to make up that revenue somewhere.
Oh, of course.
And so the reason why they think they can do it now is, and thank God I'm not in charge, I don't have to balance the budget, but I mean, because we have what's called a surplus. Surplus would be extra revenue that we didn't bank on. And that comes from taxes collected from like coal, natural gas, sales tax. So because we have these record surpluses, you hear the governor talking, he feels like comfortable that we could do away with this income tax right now in tiers, just gradually bring it. So next year, if we have those same record surpluses, we'll reduce it we'll take it down another notch. And then if we don't that third year, nothing happens. It just stays where it is. Then maybe that fourth year, we have more record surpluses. We'll reduce it even more. So eventually, over time, it phases out. But it's
now, a lot of questions come to my mind. So what if in, say, 3 years, what do we phase it out? Okay. What if in 6 years, the state's in trouble again? Do we bring it back?
Great question. That's what we asked the whole time. Because, hey, no one's given me a 4-year plan or a 5-year plan or a 6-year plan. All they're saying is projections are in the next 2 years, 3 years, we're pretty fat city, we're good. But after that third year, what happens? The last thing we want to do is pay less money out of your right pocket and then pay more money out of your left pocket. Because the money's got to come from somewhere.
It does.
And, some of these knucklehead politicians says you're going to have 500,000 people move here and it's going to bring record news taxes in when sales and all this other stuff. It'll offset it. Well, that's not realistic. Okay.
Well, that's kind of a hope and a dream, though. That's scary.
So your question is, to answer your question, you don't have to make up for that. Something will have to be raised. Will it be your sales tax? Will it be, will the income tax go back up? Gaston Caperton came in and we were facing a budget deficit. He came in and had to raise taxes. From sales tax and income tax, we had to raise it to offset it back in the day. But so anything could happen. So we hope that it does.
Can you imagine that if the income tax went away in West Virginia and in, say, in 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, they had to reinstate income tax? There'd be a run on the Capitol. It would be... People would be irate.
And, I'm a little nervous about this plan. I'll be honest, and there's a Republican view and a Democratic view, but then there's just a West Virginia view. All of us are going to feel this effect. Kansas tried this. Little old state of Kansas tried this, and it didn't work. It completely bankrupted the state, and they had to go backwards, and they had to reinstate it. They had to because it just didn't work, because it didn't have the effect they thought. People didn't move there in droves. There wasn't enough other revenues collected. COVID hit. I mean, everything just went straight down. So you're either going to have to raise sales taxes. You'll have to, find whether it's property taxes or some other taxes are going to have to go up to make up for this, because you still have to balance your budget and pay. The state operates $4.5 billion. You take $750 million. Now, let's say coal severance taxes go down. Natural gas has a big bust. We're screwed, man. I mean, we're done.
Wow.
So
that's mildly terrifying.
So what we thought was, when you have these record surpluses, we, on our side of the aisle, said, let's just be, no one's really asking to reduce the income taxes. They expect to pay something. Let's just do maybe a moderate reduction, maybe a 5% reduction, not 21.5%. Let's take this baby slow, maybe set some money aside so we can do it over the next 5 years and kind of gradually phase it out. But this is just a large chunk. One time. Another plan that we thought was, what about this, Nick? We proposed a plan on your first $80,000. No matter if you make $1 million or $80,000, no income tax. So everyone is treated equally.
Sure.
So everyone, and then after that $80,000, you get, your income starts getting taxed on how much more you make after that $80,000.
And this would be household, right?
Yes.
Combined.
Yes.
Right. Correct.
So
would the tax rate be higher for those over 80 when they hit that 80 mark? So would it be like 6% right off the bat when you hit 80?
Yeah, well, it's whatever that same tax bracket they fall in.
Okay.
But everybody would be treated equally. So you know how many people that makes up? 72% of West Virginia would have no income tax if you just did it up to $80,000.
Wow.
So we could have eliminated it for the same price as $750 million. We could have eliminated it for 72% of West Virginians. But instead, they decided to take this plan where obviously the more you make, the more bang you're going to get back.
Do you think the fear would be that would be scary for, say, business or big business owners who do make a nice, healthy salary, moving here and then having to give, more in taxes because they're well above that threshold? Do you think that would be a deterrent?
Here's where I'm at. I just think we need to give as much relief back to West Virginians as possible.
Sure.
And I think right now, going on my scenario here, let's just say you made $40,000, you're going to get $200 back.
And that could be a week or two or more of groceries for a family.
If we did away with it completely, that could have been closer to $600 back on that $40,000. So that $600 goes a lot further on those who make less income, is what I'm getting at. And
makes a lot of sense.
That's what it was almost like, the first $80,000, no taxes, that affects way more West Virginians, and it's more immediate relief, more money back. Instead, that same percentage spread across the board. If you make $1 million, that 21% off is a lot bigger deal than if you're only making $40,000. And I was a big fan of doing away with the refund back for your car taxes. So how that's going to work, is you have to still pay your taxes. The county collects it, and it goes. And then at the end of the year, when you pay your taxes, you get a refund back off your taxes for whatever you pay in your car. So basically, you have to pay it and then get it back.
It was weird when I first moved here in 2006. I'm from Cincinnati originally, born and raised. I call myself a West Virginian now. I've been here so long, you know what I mean? And my wife's from here. My kids are West Virginian, so I'm a West Virginian, and I'm proud to say that. Side note, it's pretty cool. I do some national radio and some satellite radio now. And when they introduce me, if I'm doing a set or I'm going on to talk, they're like, Nick Scott from West Virginia. I never correct them. I never say, no, I'm from Ohio. But I wear it proudly.
Yeah, we claim you now, man. Come on, you're a mountaineer.
But thank you. I do appreciate that. But I do remember when I first moved here, I went to renew my tags or something. So in Ohio, we didn't pay taxes. I don't know if they do now.
No, I don't think they do. No,
I didn't pay taxes on my vehicle. And but I did have to do an inspection once every 2 years. Or not an inspection, a
emissions test?
Environmental test.
Emissions test. Yeah.
Emissions test.
Yeah.
And so if your car was odd or even, on an odd or even year, you had to get it tested. So if it's a 2012, every even year you had to get tested. So I moved here, and I remember, I think it was someone I made a friend, or maybe someone at the radio station said, oh, you got to pay your taxes on your vehicle. You might want to get your checkbook ready. And I'm like, taxes on my vehicle? Yeah. What are you talking about? And that blew me away. That was always so strange to me that we pay taxes on our vehicles in West Virginia. But I understand, smaller state, not as, it's not like Ohio has 40 million people living in it.
Yeah.
So the revenue has to come from somewhere. So that would be a nice kind of incentive to get that money back. And I'm sure it would help families a lot.
I think, every little bit helps. We even proposed back when the gas tax was through the roof, when you're paying gas at your pump was through the roof during the Ukraine crisis. We suggested a halt on the gas tax, which is about 35 cents off the gallon. That was a suggestion we had. It never went anywhere because that was just temporary. But that's $5-6 back per per fill up. I mean, every little bit helps. People in West Virginia, they're still hurting. Every little dollar helps. We need to help them as much as we can.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the Appalachian Outpost. So all the craze, especially around West Virginia, Kentucky, Southern Ohio, Pennsylvania, is the off-road industry. You might see the Razors going down the road, the side-by-sides, guys with big jacked-up Jeeps. That's kind of the craze right now. So down in southern West Virginia, near Logan, West Virginia, the Appalachian Outpost came on the scene to serve that industry, the boom of off-roading. There's a Hatfield and McCoy trailhead right there at the resort. So you could haul your side-by-side, your rock crawler, your four-wheeler, whatever, down to the Appalachian Outpost. They have cabins that are gorgeous that you stay in, you can go ride, and then when you come back in the evening, the Broken Axle is right there on site where you can grab a drink with some friends and some really good food. So your next outdoor excursion starts at AppalachianOutpost.com. That's AppalachianOutpost.com. You can book right there, right now. What are we doing as a state now to kind of offset coal? I know coal, we all hear the stories. We see towns like Welch and McDowell County and so forth where coal companies pulled out and areas are hurting. Are we trying to bring business and tech industry in?
Great question. West Virginia is always going to be, coal is king. Coal is our baby. Every piece of legislation, it's hilarious. Everyone says, how does this affect coal? Does this help the coal industry? We have to. Coal is here. It's not going anywhere, and God love it. It's been the backbone of our state and helped us get to where we are. But we also have to diversify. And what you just said, how do we do that? Well, there's a lot of coal miners that were laid off or don't have a job now. We have to retrain them for other jobs that do exist. For example, in the natural gas industry, we're blessed to have tons of natural gas below West Virginia. We have this basin of gas just right through the middle of our state. We could really be the energy producer for a whole country, especially the East Coast, when it comes to gas, coal, and now solar is a really big deal here now. Nuclear, we passed something to allow the exploration of nuclear energy as an option in West Virginia for the first time. We're one of the few states that allow that. I think Wyoming's the other that had the first nuclear plant out there, but we'll probably be the second. So
that's awesome.
We're going to be an all-encompassing energy-producing state. However, in the South, though, the South is what's really struggling. The South of West Virginia, because that's where the coal fields, right? The gas jobs are all up in north central West Virginia and northern Panhandle. So the issue is, how do we help southern West Virginia and get companies to locate there when all of our natural resources are now in the northern part of the state?
Wow, that's a big problem to tackle. I drove through Welch for the first time 2 years ago. God love those people. But it was shocking to me, and I'm not talking bad about anyone or whatever, but it was shocking to me that this was America, first world country. Because houses were falling down, dilapidated, vacant, probably been that way for years, businesses boarded up, and it really shook me. I was like, how do we let something get to this point? You know what I mean?
They were so focused on coal, that the rest of industry just passed them by. And they just thought coal was going to be here forever. And God bless it, I'm down there all the time. We own a newspaper down there, down in Williamson, and we see it firsthand. And unfortunately, in Welch and down in Mingo County and all that is just, people are leaving by the droves down there. It's sad because there was nothing else for them to do. The jobs are in the northern part of the state or outside the state, especially in southern West Virginia. So we have to look at companies when they're coming here, give them tax incentives, give them opportunities to locate, especially in southern West Virginia, because we have a lot of great people down there. You're seeing a lot of these new energy companies. We have a company called Nucor going to Mason County. Mason County, 700 jobs. They want to be on the Ohio River. They want to be on the border of another state like Ohio. Another company coming. We have another company coming to the northern Panhandle. They're going to make batteries. They're going to make these state-of-the-art batteries that can last forever. They wanted to be in Wheeling at up in Weirton Steel Factory. It's sitting there, you know where it is, right between Ohio and Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So they like to be on the main drag, on the interstate. They like to be there. We're surrounded by other states so they can get to the various larger cities. So
distribution,
Southern West Virginia has a challenge. We have a challenge ahead because of the topography, all the mountains down there, because of the lack. So the people that were down there, all they knew was coal. That's all their grandparents did. That's all their parents did. And that's all their kids were raised on coal. And we have to give them the tools and resources to succeed in other industries.
Being here for almost 17 years now and starting a small business of my own and getting to know other entrepreneurs and people that are lifelong West Virginians, I've heard a lot of stories of where they believe West Virginia shot themselves in the foot. I'm sure you know a million of them, right? But I've always heard one of my wife's family members talk about a factory, maybe it was Beretta handguns, I can't remember, was wanting to come in and
Eastern Panhandle.
And that was shot down, and they wouldn't let them. That was a bunch of tax dollars and jobs. Another one was we passed a bill to shoot down Tesla, I guess, being able to sell as a car dealer.
Sell direct to the consumer. We don't allow that here.
I think that is ridiculous. I think that is so ridiculous. And I'm a moron. I don't know all the details. But to me as a consumer, if I want to buy a Tesla and I want to do direct to consumer to buy a Tesla and I want to pay the state of West Virginia the taxes involved in that transaction, then so be it. And I only see that as a benefit to the state of West Virginia.
You hit the nail on the head. We have to be open. We have to think differently. We have to act differently. We got to quit doing everything like it's, we're living 30 years behind the times. They always said, West Virginia will catch up. We're just 10, 15 years behind everybody else. But hey, we could have been I'm going to tell you something. This is way off topic, but we could have been,
go ahead.
We could have been the first state east of the Mississippi to legalize marijuana. Okay.
Which we should.
And we should have.
100% we should.
We should have. So Denver, Colorado, and Colorado did it. They were the first state out west. We actually passed legislation about 8 years ago, and we could have been the first state. And then what happened? Parties changed, people got elected, and the new regime came in, and the conservative movement throughout West Virginia hit, and they stopped it, dead in its tracks. They just stopped it. And they said, no medical marijuana. They delayed it. We had an office set up. We had everything ready to roll. And then what happened was all these states around us now beat us to the punch. Virginia and over in D.C. and Maryland and Ohio is even considered. Everyone else around us. We could have been the first. And now we're going to be the last. And so we can't miss an opportunity when we have a chance to be the first at something. And look at our tourism industry is flourishing. It's one of the main reasons why people come to West Virginia. They come here to go to college. And those young people come here to go to college or school, have a great time, or they come here for our tourism. They go skiing, whitewater rafting, the ATV trails. So when they're here, we got to keep them here. We got to give them a reason to stay here, or else they're just going to go back home. And that's fine. They come here to visit, but I want them to stay. And just think if we were to legalize cannabis, man, what an opportunity for young professionals to move to West Virginia, create a whole new industry. And we could have did that all in Southern West Virginia.
I heard that, and you probably know the statistics on this better than I, but something along the lines, Colorado paid off all their debt in like 48 hours.
Yeah, probably or something. Probably in cash.
Yeah.
This is the banking system.
So I've always said I fully support it. I don't use it. I did in college. I played guitar in a band, and I was a DJ in my 20s, of course. But not anymore, not in the last 10, 15 years, and it's just not my thing. But I could tell you, I 100% support the legalization and the use. And if you look at it statistically, alcohol, accidents, deaths, DUI, things of that from alcohol far outweigh, cannabis-related issues. So the fact that we have this other drug, you can walk into your local grocery store and just go in your car, pop the top off of it, and consume. But this other thing over here that makes people go eat 47 Big Macs in one setting is illegal. Blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And I've always been told that West Virginia has the environment and the agriculture to be a boom for that industry.
It could have been huge. We could have supplied it for the other states who passed medical uses. We could have been the leader in the whole eastern United States. West Virginia could have led the nation in it. Now all the other states, we're going to be the last again. All the other states are now legalizing it, and we're going to be the last. But from a medical standpoint, there's no reason why. We finally got that up there. I think you can get your medical card, we can do that. But I think we really missed the boat because a lot of our younger generation, they're leaving. They're leaving the state. Let's give them another reason to stay here.
Yeah. Well, I hope there's more reasons to stay than, but that's one,
That's just one. You know what? We got to quit thinking like old school. We got to be willing to adapt, change, try some creative things. Like you said, the Tesla model, that's old school thinking right there. Let's look at solar energy and new type of energy that helps not only help our environment. Let's don't just turn a black eye to it because we're coal only. We got to be open to all. And I think we have some great investments in economic development and these new jobs that are announced here, but we had to create new tax incentives for them to come here. We had to incentivize them to look at West Virginia because that's what all the other states are doing.
One thing that's always shocked me is how West Virginia hasn't become more of like a transportation hub. Because anywhere you go on the East Coast, where do you got to go through?
West Virginia.
Charleston. Yeah. Either 79, 77, 64. And how this hasn't become a major hub blows my mind. And I know another story I was told that I guess way back in the day they wanted to build an airport in like the hurricane area.
They did, yeah.
And that was shot down. And can you imagine the business and the infrastructure West Virginia could have, at least in this side of the state, had they done that?
They wanted to create a regional airport. Imagine this, in the only flat land we had down in Putnam County, and they wanted to bridge the gap between Huntington and Charleston. create a regional airport, because you have the Tri-State Airport in Huntington and you have the Yeager Airport, but just the old school thinking wanted to protect the Charleston, capital city airport, the Huntington, smaller airport. They just like that convenience of going 5 minutes and jumping on your airplane and getting the heck out of here. But if we would have had a regional hub, a regional airport between both, like you said, the cities would have both, I think, boomed and prospered, because that's why a lot of people are locating in the northern panhandle and north central, because they have to be close to the Pittsburgh airport to bring all these executives in and bring people. And you have to be close to an airport. And if we would have had a regional airport there, I think our economy would have really taken off.
And I think the northern panhandle isn't really too far from the Columbus Airport.
Columbus Airport, yeah, a couple, like maybe 2 hours away, if that. Pittsburgh's less than an hour away. You have to think of those things, when you want these companies to locate here.
Normally, I like to keep guests on for about an hour. I've had you almost 30 minutes now, and I know you're a busy guy. You got a million things going on. So anytime you got to bounce, you say so. But if Doug Skaff, right this moment, boom, you are now the governor of West Virginia.
Oh, right.
What is your first action? What are you going to do?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we need to, what I would have done a long time ago is I would have said no state income tax for our recent college graduates. I think we educate our young professionals and they turn 21 and then they leave the state. What if we convinced them to stay here, raise their families here, and start building West Virginia that way? That would have been the first thing I would have done. I would have done that 4 or 5 years ago before other states did. We do a great job with the Promise Scholarship and helping kids go to school, but we do a horrible job of retaining them after school. So we need to do more to do that. I think we need to be, with all the remote workers now, we need to be open for business for all people. Remote workers. This should be remote worker capital of the world, with all the outdoor recreation we have, the fresh air, the cheap cost of living. Like you said, 5 hours to anywhere. Go to DC.
Anywhere.
DC, Columbus, Charlotte, Lexington, Louisville, Indianapolis. Why not this be? I really think for West Virginia to grow, we got to focus on the younger generation and give them a reason to stay in West Virginia and raise their families here. So I would do everything in my can. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, it is sad that we still don't have internet connection across West Virginia. There are places where you don't even have cell phone service, and let alone internet. So we have to be open to say you can't have people attract here and live throughout West Virginia if you don't have good internet, you don't have good cell phone service. Give them a reason to stay here. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who lives in Putnam County but right before you get to the Taze Valley exit with the new 35 bridge, if you're familiar. His wife is a physician. They have a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood, the type of home and neighborhood you would think businesses would be wanting to get into, and those type of customers that they would be looking to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they can't get hardly any type of internet into that.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's having to use like over-the-air mobile carriers. I won't say which one. Just to have internet in their home. And that's just mind-blowing to me, because as a Cincinnatian, even though I just said I'm a West Virginian, as a Cincinnatian, I go home to my folks and my family, and everywhere I go, I mean, you have the fastest mobile speeds. My dad has like his internet screams in his home that was built in 1954 in a neighborhood that was built in 1954, but the infrastructure's there where he's getting double the speeds that I am, and there's no issue. Now, I get it. Bigger state, bigger area, bigger city, got it. But the fact that we can't do that even in Putnam County is mind-blowing to me. No,
I think you're right on. I mean, that's right between Huntington and Charleston. That should be your central hub where a lot of people locate, and that could really skyrocket, not only home values, but our young professionals would move there. But hey, one more thing I wanted to tell you before, if I was governor, I think West Virginia needs to capitalize on being an entertainment fun state for all. Okay. I mean,
now you're speaking my love language.
Let's talk about, why are we fighting about shutting down streets and having entertainment outside, and we're arguing back and forth when you have people downtown Charleston? That's a good thing. When you have people downtown Huntington or Morgantown walking the streets from 4 o'clock on, it's like, let's make this a fun city. Let's want people to drive here from Lexington to come and just hang out and spend the weekend here. Thank God
Absolutely.
we finally changed our laws so we can have some brew pubs popping up here, and we're kind of a brewing district. But we also just changed the law to allow cigar bars in certain places if the governor signs the bill, where you can have cigar bars as long as you turn your permits and everything in and have divided places. We just need to be open and welcoming and have fun for all. And I think, as you know, in the entertainment business, let's make this a music destination. Let's make this a cultural destination.
Absolutely.
Let's bring as many diverse people to town.
I had this discussion today with I'll call her a young lady, but she's in her 60s. And she was not speaking very favorably of the Charleston mayor. Now, Amy, I love you. You know I love you. I love Amy to death. I've known Amy and Booth for years.
Yeah.
And I love Danny Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Jones is my friend and to my core. So I'm not saying anything bad, but I believe for my generation, I just turned 40. I'm not a young pup, but at least for my generation, and being in Charleston for over 15 years, there's more things for me, my generation, the generation younger than me, and folks with I've got a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. I feel like since Amy has become mayor, there's more to do for folks my age or families with kids my age or the younger generation than when Danny was in office. Now, Danny did great things, don't get me wrong, but we're talking purely entertainment, things to do, laws being changed and passed. So she was going on about the doo-wop going away. I'm sure you've heard about this,
yes.
right?
It was in the newspaper today.
She was just devastated by this. And I said, ma'am, I've lived here for 17 years in radio, entertainment, DJing events, everything else, and I have never stepped foot one time at the doo-wop.
Yeah.
Because it's just not my shtick. But regatta, I'm there. Chili cook-off, I'm there. A 5K, color run, I'm there. Live on the levee, I'm there.
Festival,
you know what I mean?
Cultural festival. Yeah.
Festival, I'm there. And I think Amy is going the right direction with arts and entertainment and what we can do now with Slack Plaza. I'm very, very happy with, like you said, the arts and the entertainment just coming back for us.
She brought the energy. She lived up to, what she said she promised she was going to do. She was going to make Charleston alive again. And I just love watching, like at Christmas time, the holly, jolly, brawly walkway. Oh, yeah. The Christmas parade at nighttime, I mean, it was electric. It was awesome. You seen all the kids out. Businesses were thriving. I mean, it was a Thursday night. So anytime there's people downtown, that's a good thing. There's less vacant storefronts now than we've probably ever had in a long time in Charleston.
That I can remember.
Yeah. And Huntington the same way. I'm in Huntington. We have a paper down there, Herald Dispatch, and I'm down there a lot. Huntington is rocking as well. Morgantown's rocking. We need to do some more up in Wheeling, places like that. The Eastern Panhandle, it's rocking. West Virginia, when you come here, this is my hope and dream. It's like when you come here to ride an ATV trail, you don't just come for one night. When you go skiing, don't just come for one night. You stay that second, third, and fourth night here and experience all of West Virginia. Let's make this a destination vacation rather than just a weekend vacation.
Absolutely. And and to be more specific to Charleston, because that's what I'm most familiar with. When I knew things were really making a change for the better, do you remember that alleyway in downtown Charleston that went from Capitol Street over to the old KRT where Slack Plaza is now?
Yeah.
Where is it Ellen's Ice Cream's right there?
Ice Cream right there, yeah.
There was a little alleyway that bridged between the buildings, that cut between there. And I remember I used to DJ bars down there, and I'd walk by that alleyway like that's where you go to get murdered.
Yeah.
Like you don't walk down. It was scary. It was very scary. Now that's one of the nicest alleyways to walk down in Charleston. One of the most beautiful, safest, pristine. That's where all the Christmas trees were, the Holly Brawley. Yeah. It's gorgeous. So that one section made me realize we're doing something right.
You hit the nail on the head. I have this thing for alleys. Like I go to like Nashville and Memphis, and they really brighten up the alleys. They have patio, furniture out in the alleys. And I think this would be a cool little alley town too, if you could just connect through the alleys like back in the old days. And like we used to be wide open through the alleys and sneak around. But I think the thing too, like you hit the nail on the head, the Capitol Market's awesome. It's so refreshing. Awesome. I remember back in the day when I was younger, that was a damn recycling center. I mean, it was just a waste. It was a recycling center. They transformed it into this beautiful Capitol Market. It's a destination now. People go there. But the bar scene downtown is alive and well. The food scene is alive and well. Entertainment is back, and I think the regatta. She hit a home run with the regatta. You got to give her. I mean, that
big home run
was awesome.
Regatta was awesome, and what's funny is you were talking about the Capitol Market. We go down there. I mean, Johnny's Meats, all best steaks, and I love smoking meat. So if I'm going to do like a pulled pork and I need a pork butt or a brisket, I mean that's the place to go. And then the fish restaurants, a little fish restaurant.
Yeah.
Dude, their fish sandwich,
that's good.
Get out of here. The Capitol Market's awesome.
They got like a little 2-foot by 4-foot kitchen there. They cook everything in. It's hilarious.
It's amazing.
And the convention center. What do you say about the Charleston Convention, the Coliseum Convention Center? It used to just be like in a one event a night. Now you go there and there's 3 or 4 events going on per evening, which brings all different type of genres and people into town together. And the hotels are sold out. We don't have enough hotel rooms now.
That's amazing. I remember when I first got here and I was working in terrestrial radio, I worked for a top 40 station. So I remember seeing all these country acts, all these country artists coming through. And I remember, coming from Cincinnati and working at a top 40 radio station in Cincinnati, it was all the time we were getting pop artists, top 40 artists, it was nothing to have Christina Aguilera or Nick Lachey or Matchbox 20 and the Goo Goo Dolls come through our studio and we'd meet them and they were playing a show it was all the time, 2, 3, 4 shows a week. All these artists were coming through. And then I get to Charleston. So from 2006 to, I don't know, when was the Coliseum done? 15, 16?
Yeah.
It was only country acts.
Yeah.
And I remember going to some of the folks at the radio station going, why can't we have what's on top 40 radio? Why can't we have what's on rock radio? Bring Metallica through here. I don't know, and they said, no, they'll only do country. And I remember thinking, what a major shoot yourself in the foot moment. And now I'm seeing, like I just saw Falling in Reverse is coming. I don't know if you know who that is, but they're a big metal band.
Nice.
Breaking Benjamin's been here. There's been some other Matchbox 20 and the Goo Goo Dolls came through. So now we're diversifying, thank God, the music, the live music that's coming to the Charleston Coliseum. And I am here for it. And I'm so happy to hear the change in music. And I love country music. I grew up on country music, but I love all music. And I love going to concerts, so I want to see different folks. You know what I mean?
So you, being a music guy, I have to ask you this. Do you love doing DJing out on a street, outside, under the stars, or at a wedding, or at some indoor event? I mean, what would you prefer your ideal DJ event?
40-year-old Nick, now doing it 20 years. April of 2023 will be 20 years that I've been in the industry. I got in it when I was 20 in April of 2003. And now I'd rather be out under the stars on a stage with a big crowd having the time of my life vibing
just
out.
Killing it. Yeah, that's awesome.
There was a time where I would rather do a wedding. I'd probably say the first 10 years or so of my career, I'd rather do a wedding because that's where I was comfortable. Like I could do a wedding in my sleep. I've done so many of them. I lost count at like 1,000 one day. I've done so many in 20 years. I mean, there was a 10-year period where I was doing 2 and 3 a week. Or maybe it was like 700. I don't know. I'm from Ohio. My math's not fantastic. So, but it was because it was comfortable, doing the weddings. But now I've done so many weddings, and weddings are hard to mold to because you get a different crowd every time, and they all want something different every time. Like I've had clients that just want me to play emo rock all night, so it's like Green Day and all that all night. And then I have other crowds that want it. They're like, Nick, I want it to feel like I'm in the hottest nightclub in Las Vegas. I got you.
Gotcha.
And you know what I mean? So, but now like doing Live on the Levee, Regatta, that type stuff would be amazing. I'd love to do something like that.
Seeing you out there rocking at the Regatta. I love seeing you at the outdoor on Hell Street. I think you did a couple events over there. That was awesome. Yep. You've done the girls' night out, I think, when it was outside a few times. I mean, I think under the stars, DJ Nick Scott.
Let's make an event, man. Me and you, the newspaper, get behind it. I think it'd be
Listen,
awesome.
I got this 5-story parking garage. I'm staring out the window out. I see the rooftop. It's wide open. We need DJ Nick Scott on the rooftop for charity.
Better yet, I could get. So, have you heard of my project called Vibrant Place?
Yes, yeah.
Me and EJ,
Yeah.
DJ,
Yeah, DJ EJ.
I could get me and EJ on that rooftop. Say less.
Forth. Let's do it.
Say less. It'd be
Let's do
awesome. Hey, one last question before I let you go. Second thing, because I'm intrigued. When I asked you about what would Governor Skaff do, you like the sound of that?
Yeah,
Governor
that sounds
Skaff.
good.
And I saw a whole lot of ideas going through your head. So I won't limit you to one. What else would Governor Skaff do? What would we see under a Governor Skaff for West Virginia?
Oh man, I think our economy would be diversified. I would go out there to Silicon Valley and say, why not us? What's really have a tech sector here in West Virginia? We're 5 hours from DC, we're 7 hours from New York and different places. Let's have a tech sector. I want to go out to Silicon Valley, and we have some really smart people. For example, we have the Marshall president. Brad, he is phenomenal. He knows so many people out there. Why can't we have an Amazon headquarters here, a Google headquarters here, a Facebook? Why can't we have the Silicon Valley here in Willow, West Virginia? Let's be creative. Let's put them on top of a mountain. Let's let them have their mountaintop retreat here and come here and brainstorm and bring the smartest minds from all over and say West Virginia is open. But on the other end of the spectrum, I want to make West Virginia a destination for retirees. They all go to Florida. They think Florida is where it is, and they go, but they want to come back to West Virginia. It's beautiful here. They got great weather here. We have 4 seasons here. How can we attract our grandparents and parents and people to come back here instead of going to Florida? Let's come back to West Virginia. What can we do to help them come back to West Virginia and live out the rest of their lives here in a nice, safe, really welcoming environment?
I have a point. If I could make one there. Well, here's an idea to help either keep retirees here or bring them back, especially military retirees. Yes. So my wife's family, military retirees, and I do remember conversations being had of when we retire, we're going to like Tennessee. Because if I remember correctly, and I might be misspeaking, you may know the details better. I'm going purely off memory from a conversation years ago, that Tennessee didn't tax military retirees benefits or whatever they make on retirement. And it was, we could move to Tennessee and save money and live better. So why can't we do that? These men and women, brave men and women who serve not only our country, but some of them in the National Guard that serve West Virginia, and they do so extraordinarily. Why can't we offer that to them to keep them?
Absolutely.
Here?
That's a great idea. Let's bring our heroes back to West Virginia or anywhere there. Keep them here. Yeah, let's keep them here. I think that's that's the least we can do. And I have tons of ideas, but one I wanted to tell you, one thing I've always wanted to do, if I could wave my magic wand, I want to develop a true riverfront. I want businesses, bars, restaurants, up and down the river. And that would require moving some roads around, and maybe scooting them over a little bit, but just take a stretch. And it doesn't have to be on the Charleston side. It can be, or downtown Charleston, it can be on the opposite side of the river. How awesome would it be if you just had, like when you go to San Antonio and you go to different places that really, Tampa Bay, when they embrace the bay and all these restaurants are on the water. I really think we underutilize the river from an economic standpoint, and I'd love to figure out a way to develop the riverfronts.
That strip right before you get to the Southside Bridge there, I think there was like a maintenance shop there, and I think Q Labs or whatever is there now.
I've always had a vision to have some nice high-rise condos there, some restaurants there, but push it to next to the river and have the road go behind it. So you push it out closer to the river, and then you put boat docks and stuff down there. You do a walkway. I do think if we had something on that side of the river where you're looking out at Charleston, that would be a desirable place to hang out.
What comes to mind and where I got the idea for that area? Are you familiar with Cincinnati, where the Covington Landing is?
Yeah.
Or Newport on the Levee. I'm sorry, Newport on the Levee.
Exactly where it is. Newport, Kentucky.
I think a Newport on the Levee style facility right there, facing Charleston, like you said, boat ramp, right there at Newport on the Levee. There's a walkway where you can walk out along the Ohio River. You can even walk over the Ohio River to get into downtown Cincinnati. I don't know why you couldn't do that with the Southside Bridge if you wanted to walk over into Charleston. I've since I moved here, I've looked at that piece of property and went, this is a huge loss. Like, this is so underutilized, in my opinion. It could be something so beneficial for the city.
And I was so mad they put like a rental car place right there. They put it right in the middle of that property. I was like, oh man, that's the worst use of that. You could have pulled down all those, build a real nice project there, have a rooftop bar that you could DJ on that overlooks the river in the city, watch the fireworks, watch the regatta. Now we're talking DJ Nick Scott, Doug Skaff, entertainment zone.
So when you become governor, let me DJ the party for
Oh,
you.
listen, that would be one of the best highlights. I remember Joe Manchin used to have some really good parties when he became governor over at the Coliseum. He'd have a different genre of music in each room. I know he had the Davison Brothers there. He had some rock and roll bands. Yeah. He had DJs there. You will definitely be there.
Can I tell you a funny story about Joe Manchin? Yeah. So this is probably 2000. When did he become senator? Like 2012?
Yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. So I had the privilege of DJing his niece's wedding at the governor's mansion. He was still governor, and they had it in the Rose Garden of the governor's mansion, or whatever that garden is he got out there. And it was a beautiful day. Sun was shining. And then literally 10 minutes before the wedding starts, and it's like 4 p.m, the whole skyline turns black, and there's a storm coming. So, I mean, I'm grabbing speakers, I'm grabbing turntables. And at the time, they still had that like white event tent thing set up there. But so I'm running all my stuff in there. And thankfully, it went off without a hitch. It was a great wedding. And Joe was so gracious. He was awesome. I remember being in the governor's mansion. This is a little side note. I remember sitting there in like the library, and I'm like, I'm in the West Virginia governor's mansion. Like, how did I end up here? And there was music playing throughout the house. And I'm just sitting there waiting for it to start. And he just walks in to turn the music off. And he goes, oh, what's up, Nick? Turns the music off, walks out. I'm like, the governor just walked. What's up, bro? Turns the music off. It was surreal. It was just crazy. But anyways, he was awesome. And at the end of the night, we wrap up, and I'm tearing my stuff down. And Joe comes walking by, and he's already announced that he's going to run for that Senate seat since Senator Byrd had passed. And I said, sir, I would love to be a part of your victory party, whatever that entails. Here's my card. Give me a call. He took my card. He said, done. You are there. And I said, thank you. That would be awesome. Doug Skaff, I have never heard from Joe Manchin.
Are you still waiting for that victory party, right? You're still waiting?
I'm still waiting.
Well, listen.
Never happened.
Well, I have your number saved in my phone. If I ever become governor or do anything of that magnitude, DJ Nick Scott, you're coming out of retirement. If you're off on some island somewhere, you're coming back and cranking it up with me.
Well, before I let you go, is there anything, I'm very thankful. This podcast has gained a tremendous reach here in the state of West Virginia, also Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee. I even have listeners in Oregon, Texas, California, and believe it or not, Guam. I don't know how that happened. But what would you like to say to the people before we say goodbye? Any parting words?
Hey, listen, West Virginia is a part of my life. Born and raised here. Left the state for a few years, and I couldn't wait to get back. It's where I raised my kids. It's a great place. We're wild and wonderful and free for all, and I want everybody to come here. If you haven't been to West Virginia yet, you should come and give us a try. It's a good time. I guarantee you'll come back. They say almost heaven, country roads. I guarantee you it is almost heaven, and you're something for everybody. So come give West Virginia a shout. I really appreciate you having me on this show, and we'll keep doing more good. I've been in the legislature 11 years now, Nick. 11 years.
That's amazing.
And I've been on both sides. I've been in the majority and the minority. It's always a lot more fun in the majority. But, hey, as long as we can make a difference, and when you go home at night and you look in the mirror and you feel like you did something that made someone's life better, it's all worth it.